Well, over the coming days and weeks, Joe Biden is expected to announce who will serve in top roles during his administration. Progressives in the party are eager to see their allies fill those spots, but disappointing losses in the House and a failure to capture a majority in the Senate could derail some of those plans and deflate some of those hopes. So for more, we're now joined by Waleed Sahid. He is the Communications Director for Justice Democrats, which is a progressive political action committee. He joins us right now in New York. Waleed, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So a lot to talk about here, but I do want to begin here with your reaction to the continuing refusal of Donald Trump to accept the results of this election.
I think it's utterly disgraceful and honestly pretty sad and scary. The Republican Party is amplifying the president's efforts to orchestrate a coup, delegitimize this election result, and delegitimize the next 4 years of the Biden presidency. And so one of the things that is troubling is that there are several conservative Democrats in my party who say they want to reach across the aisle and co-govern with Republicans in the Senate and in the House. And frankly, when Republicans are acting like an authoritarian, anti-democratic party, I don't know if they should be treated as a good faith, normal political party. They should be held accountable for their actions in the past week, which are anti-democratic.
So let's pick up on that point then, because, progressives were very key to Joe Biden's victory. What are you looking out for then? Because, the first 100 days, as you know, a symbolic marker for the direction of any U.S. president. What will you be looking out for in Biden's first 100 days as a progressive that got your supporters, your part of the party, to actually get out and vote?
So one thing that happened after the Democratic primaries was that Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders put together joint task forces to come some unity and agreement on policy principles in the Democratic Party. And so there were a number of commitments made in that, particularly on climate change. And we would love to see an Office of Climate Mobilization that directly reports to the president to start our nation's transition to 100% clean energy and create millions of jobs. We'd also like to see Joe Biden appoint people to his administration and his cabinet who represent nearly half his party, progressives who have the experience and the track record of standing up to the powers that be and delivering results. We have, high numbers of employment, skyrocketing inequality, wage stagnation, and a public health crisis. And there are several progressives that we've asked Joe Biden to consider to be appointed in his administration. And then lastly, we would like to see, the stimulus package that Joe Biden will hopefully usher in his first 100 days, whether it will tackle the fundamental issues of our time, namely systematic inequality, structural racism, the climate crisis, and obviously COVID-19.
Okay. Now, as you say all that, of course, Joe Biden will take the oath of office in January, but he will become president unless things change with the Georgia runoff, with what looks like at this moment in time to be a Republican Senate. How worried are you that all that you've stated, that all your aspirations might be diluted by the fact that it is a Republican Senate that Biden will be working with?
Well, it's critical that we win those 2 Georgia Senate seats, but if we don't, there's still a lot that Joe Biden can do through executive power, and we'll definitely be putting pressure on him to do so. That said, Joe Biden will have won by the end of the election by 7 million votes at the national level. And the reason why those 7 million votes don't translate to the gains in the House and the Senate that you might expect to see in any normal functioning democracy is how the elections are done in the United States and how, certain voters are more equal than others. And so you can have a Democratic candidate win 7 of the last 8 elections, but that doesn't translate into governing majorities. And that's something that is very, very alarming and will continue to become a problem as America's polarization grows wider. And so the number one thing is that I do not think Mitch McConnell should be rewarded for any of his behavior in the Senate based on what the actions he's done in the last week to amplify President Trump's efforts to orchestrate a coup in the United States. To make him a co-governing partner with Joe Biden would really demobilize the Democratic electorate in the 2022 midterms, because Mitch McConnell's sole goal will be to get Joe Biden to swallow poison pills that really make key constituencies in the Democratic Party not that interested in turning out for another election.
Mm-hmm. And just very quickly for our viewers at home, what you were referring there in terms of congressional districts is how those districts are actually drawn and which communities, which voters are put into those districts. But let's quickly then, as you talk about Mitch McConnell then, how much compromise are you willing to accept?
Well, it depends. Mitch McConnell's sole goal is to grow the Republican Party's power and make sure Democrats don't get elected. And so, you could see him try to offer things that in exchange for the stimulus that he wants to see, 1 or 2 years from now, cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Is that something that Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi would accept? I don't think there are many parts of the Democratic Party that I don't think would accept a compromise like that. In exchange for immigration reform, would Mitch McConnell demand full construction of Donald Trump's border wall? In exchange for, there's several things that Mitch McConnell will try to get as many key Republican points into any compromise negotiations. And so, bipartisanship is a nice word. Unity is a nice word. But at the end of the day, we don't want to compromise and sell out the millions of voters who turned out for fundamental change in this election to deliver Joe Biden the presidency, and then hand Mitch McConnell basically allow him to become a co-governing partner.
Waleed Shahid, thank you for this. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
And Waleed is the Communications Director for Justice Democrats, who joins us in New York.